Hey, what's up, guys? Brian Keene here. Welcome back to the second week of our patron exclusive live stream. I figured out what went wrong last week, so this week should be a lot smoother. While we're waiting for folks to come in, I'm going to go ahead and do a little prep here. I'm sure you don't mind. Tonight's cigar is a Winston Churchill, the late hour. So I'm going to go ahead and prep that. And if you also imbibe, feel free to join in. And if not, that's cool too. Cut the end off here. This is what you pay money for every month on Patreon. You pay money to watch me light up a cigar. Do me a favor. Don't tell Joe Lansdale or F. Paul Wilson that I was doing this on a live stream, because they like to give me a hard time about my cigars, but they do it from a place of love. That's cool. But I missed these. I wasn't able to smoke these for a long time because of the Bell's palsy, but I'm finally back to a place where I can enjoy one. And it's not like I do them every day, just on special occasions. And you folks are a special occasion. Tonight's bourbon will be Knob Creek. So I'm going to go ahead and pour some of that on the rocks. If you're so inclined, you're welcome to join me with whatever you have. And lest you think I'm an alcoholic, I also have a big, giant water here as well, because it's important to stay hydrated, particularly if you have cigars and bourbon going. But enough of this. You did not tune in to watch me smoke cigars and swill whiskey. You tuned in because you had questions, and wow, you guys came through with the questions. So we're going to jump into those. If you have other questions, if you didn't get a chance to post one on Patreon, just type it there in the comments, and I'll see it. Do me a favor, if you're watching the stream right now, leave a comment, because it says I'm live, but it doesn't feel like I'm live. So let's find out. All right, well, fuck it. We'll find out. Last week, there was a lot of trouble getting Patreon and YouTube to work together. And as it turns out, many of you, Patreon wouldn't let you view the stream until it had actually ended on YouTube. I'm not sure why that was or what happened. This week, hopefully, we found a workaround on that. I'm just going to check a couple things here real quick, okay? Again, we're okay, yeah. All right. Hang on. Let's fix something here real quick. Apparently, you guys are, in fact, having trouble accessing the stream. So let's go here and here. All right. Hopefully, you guys are able to get in. Let me do one more thing here. All right, there we go. Now it's fixed. It should all be working. Should we start over? Fuck, I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's still smoother than it was last week. Yes, there. Now we're live. So Winston Churchill late hour cigar, Knob Creek in the glass, of course, a big bottle of water to stay hydrated. And welcome to the second patron exclusive live stream, which is not quite the clusterfuck the first one is, but it's still pretty fucked up. But at least this time we know you folks can see it. And as I was saying before we figured out that nobody could get in, y'all came through with questions this week. So let's go ahead and get to your questions. I'm going to read the ones from Patreon first. And then if you have any questions after that, we will, of course, take questions. You can just type them right there in the comments. So we start with Thomas Parker, who says, Brian, are you considering another novel in the Rising series? I'm not only considering it, I'm writing it. I'm about 40,000 words into it. It's called The Fall. Let me explain what 40,000 words actually looks like. Hang on one second. So here we have City of the Dead. To this date, City of the Dead is the longest novel I've written. It is 105,000 words, I believe. So that's about 40,000 words right there. So I've got about that much of The Fall written. However, The Fall is intended to be the absolute longest thing I've ever written. I suspect it'll come in at least 200,000 words, possibly longer. I'm talking something the length of Stephen King's The Stand, Robert R. McCammon's Swan Song, Brian Lumley's very last book in the Necroscope series, one of those big doorstop, those big books that you can kill motherfuckers with just by dropping them on their heads. The Fall is intended to be that long. So while it sounds like, wow, he's made a lot of progress, he's 40,000 words in. No, I'm still on part one of the book. The Fall, I really want to be careful here. I don't want to give spoilers. Jim and Danny aren't in it. Frankie isn't in it. Of course, if you've read City of the Dead, or if you've read The Seven, the Labyrinth book 1, then of course, Jim and Danny and Frankie aren't going to be in it. But characters from The Rising are in fact in The Fall. If you want to go back and reread The Rising, maybe you can figure out who shows up. So there are characters, there are also a bunch of new characters. The novel begins during The Rising, specifically about 5 minutes after the big fight between the forces of Colonel Scow and Ob and the Siquasim. That's where the novel begins. If you have read The Seven, the Labyrinth book 2, then you have met at least one of the characters that's in The Fall. Without spoilers, without big spoilers, when Frankie and the Exit and Teddy and the rest of the cast, when they return to Havenbrook in The Seven, and the Exit goes off by himself and he meets a character in The Seven, that character is one of the main characters in The Fall. So that's where the book starts, but it continues after the events of City of the Dead. So the Siquasim have left the planet. It's when the plant life and the insect life begins to be impacted. And it continues past that to the third wave. So as I said, it's going to be a very long book. It's not going to be released anytime soon, but I am working on it regularly. So hopefully I live long enough to finish it. If not, I've left instructions with Stephen Kozanowski on how to finish it. So next question, Ken Jensen says, I do like you showing off cool items from your collection. I will always watch these after the fact. So, all right, cool. You know what, Ken? I brought along some cool items to show tonight from my collection. We're going to show something old and something new, although the something new is actually kind of old too. Let me switch back over to the camera here so I can make sure I have this right. So, of course, these days, Carlton Mellick III one of the cornerstones of the genre. You know, he's not just the Brian Keene of Bizarro. He's the fucking Joe Hill of Bizarro. Okay, but he's a cornerstone of the horror genre as well. You know, so Carlton and I started about the same time, and I have this, a very old chapbook from Eraserhead Press, back when they were still doing chapbooks like this. This is the original Baby Jesus butt plug. It's the story that put him on the map. 2001, Carlton Mellick. And you know, in all the years I've known Carl, I have never gotten him to sign this, and I really should. So Rose, Carl, I know you're watching. At some point, head east and let's get this signed. And of course, you can sign everything else in my collection. Something else from the library. This is a 1924 edition of Arthur Machen's Strange Roads and With the Gods in Spring. Now, Arthur Machen, if you're not a fan of classic horror, you might not know who he is. He's one of the greats. He's one of the Mount Rushmore of classic horror. He would be up there with Lovecraft and with Poe. Arthur Machen, of course, wrote the Great God Pan. That's what he's best known for. But yeah, this is a 1924 edition hardcover. And there it is. And here's what's really cool. I'm going to show you guys this. Let me find the page. You gotta turn these pages very carefully because it's a very old book. This edition is signed by Arthur Machen himself. Okay, the guy who wrote The Great God Pan. That's his signature right there. He touched this book. That is cool to me. You know, this was number 96 of 300 copies, 1924. And I point that out because a lot of times new readers, they see these limited edition, signed limited edition hardcovers offered, and they think it's some kind of scam. They think it's, you know, some kind of new thing. No, this shit has been around forever. This signed limited editions have been around since books were being printed and published. They're for collectors. They're for people who love books. I love this. If the house caught on fire, this wouldn't be the first thing I rescued, but it would be in the top 10. Okay, so there's two things from the collection. Hope you enjoyed those. And let's go to our next question. Let's see here. Ken also wanted to know, what is my opinion on Book Match, like the defunct Amazon deal where you got the digital book when you bought the physical? This is something I miss a great deal. You know, I don't really have an opinion on it. I do know in talking to people that my cigar went out. Hang on one second, Ken. We're going to answer this. This is me stalling for thought, how I want to phrase this. I know in talking to authors, some of my peers, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus and name names or anything like that, but many of my peers did not like that because they felt it cost them money. It cost them a sale. You know, selfishly, they would prefer that a customer buy both the print book and the ebook if they want both. And you know, I get that. Look, this is our job. People want to get paid. It never bothered me a lot. You know, I figure at least you're buying one, you know, and if you get the other one for free, it's no skin off my back. It's not like we make a lot of money off ebooks anyway. So it never bothered me. I actually didn't know they had stopped that program now until you brought it up. I think something much worse than Amazon's doing right now is they're letting people return Kindle books after they've read them. After they've completely read them, they can return the book and get a full refund. And what people don't understand is it's not Amazon who's refunding your money. They're charging us, the authors, and it comes out of our money. I have peers whose checking accounts have crashed. They bounced checks because Amazon took money out of their checking account to pay for these returns. And that is some bullshit. And I really wish Amazon would change that policy. Rose asks, what's the most interesting literary pilgrimage you've been on? Visit to a beloved author's grave or house, etc. Oh my, there are several. Probably the one that comes to mind immediately. Paul Tremblay, Mary, myself, Dave Thomas, Charles Rutledge, Nick Kaufman, and Nick's wife, Alexa, and Jim Moore. We went to the John Hay Library in Providence, the university, where they have Lovecraft's collection. They have all of Lovecraft's papers, all of his manuscripts, etc. And we got a private tour of these. The curator brought him out. We got to see and touch the original manuscript for At the Mountains of Madness, for The Call of Cthulhu, for The Shadow over Innsmouth. We got to see actual letters and correspondence between Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, Lovecraft and E. Hoffman Price, Lovecraft and a young Robert Bloch. We even got to see stuff like Lovecraft. He liked to save money so much that he would write on the back of like utility bills. He would write letters on the back of other letters, etc. In one letter, I believe it was to Robert E. Howard, there's this brown smudge, and Lovecraft writes in the margin, he apologizes, he had smushed a mosquito that had bit him with the letter, and then went ahead and mailed the letter anyway. And of course, it's a room full of horror writers. I can't remember if it was me or Tremblay or who, but a bunch of us, were like, oh my God, there's Lovecraft's DNA. We should clone him. So that's a big one. Lovecraft's grave is cool. Poe's grave is very cool. But what's cooler than Poe's grave is the Poe Museum in Richmond, Virginia. If you ever get a chance to visit that, I highly recommend it. It's a very, very cool collection, and the curator is super knowledgeable. He's super nice. They got a couple of my things there you might dig too. What else? Hunter S. Thompson's childhood home. That was cool for me. I wrote about that in End of the Road. It was kind of sad. Like the mail carrier and the people in the neighborhood, they had no idea that's what the place was. It's not a historic site or anything like that. That made me quite sad. One thing I have not done that I hope to do before I die, every year in Robert E. Howard's hometown, they have, Robert E. Howard Days. It's like a weekend celebration, and I would love to go to that before I die. But just haven't been able to afford it. So good question though. It's funny. I actually, when I was reading through these earlier, I read, you said, what's the most interesting literary pilgrimage? I read it as library pilgrimage, and that would be a completely different answer. I've so many of my peers have such cool fucking libraries, and I know they say the same thing about me and Mary's library, and they should, because me and Mary's library is pretty fucking cool. But Christopher Golden has an amazing library. Joe Hill has an amazing library. When you go in Joe's house, he's got this life-size replica of the TARDIS, right? And it's built into the wall. And he's like, hey, go in the TARDIS. And you go in the TARDIS, the back end of the TARDIS opens into a secret library. It's this hidden room, floor to ceiling shelves, and it's a badass collection. Jeff Cooper doesn't write a lot anymore, but some of you hardcore fans may have read Coop. If you've never read Coop, you should try to track his stuff down and read him. He has an amazing library for old stuff. If this Arthur Machen that I showed earlier appealed to you, you would lose yourself in Coop's library. It's amazing. Also, Camelot Books, Tony and Kim, they have not only an impressive storefront, which you can visit. It's by appointment only, but you can go to Florida and you can visit and you can spend money there. But their personal library at home is staggering. Not just horror, they got sci-fi, fantasy, all kinds of cool stuff. But it's staggering. It's like a museum. So let me check on the stream, make sure it's going okay. And I want to make sure that you guys are hearing me, in fact. I don't know. I can't tell if you're hearing me or not, guys. I hope you are. It says we have viewers, so I don't know. Hopefully, fuck it. I can't figure out Patreon and YouTube. I can't figure out why they don't want to get along. Anyway, let's go to the next question. Efren asks, how are things going with your published novels in other countries? All right, I guess. They're being impacted by this global economic uncertainty, the same as we are. But occasionally I'll get a royalty check, or occasionally I'll get a report. Or this week, I got copies of the German edition of The Complex. They showed up. So yeah, I don't know. I used to have a lot of luck with foreign editions and foreign translations, and these days I don't know. They almost seem like an afterthought to them. I don't know. Edward Lee has lots of luck with foreign translations. He actually, in places like Germany and Poland, Lee's like a #1 bestseller, which is fantastic. I wish America would treat him the same. But yeah, I can't complain. It's found money. So Henry asks, have you ever thought of doing another short story collection like the Rising Worms ones with the fans in them? Yeah. Actually just did. We did a series of 6 chapbooks, all set in the world of the Rising. It was done as a fundraiser for Christopher Triana, because his dog needed chemotherapy. And if you think chemotherapy is expensive for humans, you should see what it is for dogs. So I did 6 stories for 6 fans who each paid for it. And then something very cool, Charlie Benante, the drummer for Anthrax and SOD, he illustrated the cover to each of them. So that was awesome. They are going to come out from Death's Head Press, but I don't know when. They were supposed to be out in April. They're not. I'm not sure when they'll be out, but when I get an update, you will know. As far as a longer collection, I don't know. I've thought about it, but right now I just don't have time. My #1 goal right now is finishing the Levi Stoltzfus books. There are 3 more of those. Finishing The Fall, which we talked about earlier in the stream, and finishing the Labyrinth series. Obviously, you all are Patreon subscribers, so we're doing the 3rd Labyrinth book on Patreon right now. I think there are 6 books in total. There might be 7. I might need 7 to finish it off. But my goal right now is getting those things finished, because I would hate to die and leave them unfinished. So maybe after all that, we'll do one of those short story collections. Sorry, I'm fucking paranoid about this stream. Now I'm freaking out that nobody can see it. I don't know. People aren't being clear on Twitter. Somebody sent me a gif of, hello, IT, have you tried turning it on and off again? I don't know if that means you can fucking hear me or not. You're not being helpful. Anyway, if you have a comment, type it down there so I know that you are in fact receiving this live. Let's go back to the questions. Isla asks, hi, Brian. I can't attend the live stream, but I would like to know if you have a preference for doing individual stories or for series, or is it not up to you, but to the muse that I believe lives in all authors? That is a good question. Hang on. Somebody's texting me. Rose says you can see and hear me. Thank you, Rose. I appreciate it. Good questions, by the way, Rose. Okay, so let me read Isla again. She says, I can't attend the live stream, but I would like to know if you have a preference for doing individual stories or for series, or is it not up to me? That's a great question. And it's not really one I've ever thought about. I don't mind series. Like the Levi series. I love writing those books. I'm sort of sad that there are only 3 books left in the series, and I know how it's going to end. And that makes me sort of sad. I wish there was room for more stories, and I guess there could be. I guess I could cheat and go back and write a novel and say this takes place between Ghost Walk and Gathering of Crows, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that author, you know. But really, for me, it just comes down to the story, the complex, and Take the Long Way Home. Those are 2 that people consistently ask for a sequel to, and there will never be a sequel to either one of those, because for me, that's how the story ends in both cases. Take the Long Way Home, you know, it's about his journey home, and once he gets home, that's the end of the story. Now, you guys make a valid argument. Well, it takes place during the rapture, and it's the start of the rapture. You got the whole Christian tribulation period. Yeah, but that's not the story I wanted to write about. I just wanted to write about what if Christians were right and the rapture was a real thing and it happened. How would this, this atheist and these other people who didn't get raptured, how would they react? What would their journey home be like? Same with the complex. The complex was 2 things. First of all, it was me writing my way through a nervous breakdown. And let's explain what that means. When Jesus Gonzalez died, I didn't write for months. I didn't think I had it in me anymore. And I was not a nice person to be around. I started doing way too much of this. Got back on coke, and Mary rightfully left me. We were broke up for about a year, and she was right to do so. I was not a good person. I would pull my shit together on weekends for my kids, and then as soon as they would go home, I was back to being, a mess again. Oh, hey, what's up?
I thought I saw something burning.
I'm sorry. Say hi to everybody. Speaking of the devil, Mary San Giovanni.
Hi, everyone.
I was just talking about the time you broke up with me after Jesus died, but
Who broke up with who?
I can't talk about it now.
Oh,
did you need something?
No, I just kind of wanted to see what the burning smell was.
The burning smell was this Winston Churchill, the late hour cigar. Is it really that bad down there?
No, it's not that bad. But...
All right. I'll be down in a minute.
Okay.
Well, not in a minute. I have a long live stream here. I'll be down.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, have fun.
All right. Love you.
Love you too.
Mary San Giovanni, everybody. Applaud for. So anyway, where was I in those deep, somber musings? So anyway, yeah. The main character in the complex, the horror writer, his headspace at the start of that book, that's exactly where I was. That was my headspace. And the complex was basically me writing my way out of that hole. It was a tribute to Jesus. It was the kind of book he would have written. It was the kind of book he would have fucking loved. And it was me being able to rage about his death, if that makes any sense. The other thing that went into that, and this ties back into your question, Isla, the complex was about, I wanted to talk about this idea we have of America where everybody knows their neighbors and you go out for work in the morning. Hello, Bob. Hello, Frank. And, you see each other at the grocery store, you say hello, because that's a lot of bullshit. Okay. We don't know our neighbors these days, not to any great extent. You may know your immediate next door neighbor, but you probably don't know the person 4 houses down. Maybe you know them to wave at them, but that's it. We have we have lost that sense of community in this country. And, you know, you look at how divided we are now as a country, but that's what I was addressing when I wrote The Complex. And we weren't even as divided then as we are now, but we were. So those are the two things. And, you know, you get to the end of The Complex and they're running towards the troops and, you know, they're thinking, see us for who we are. See us for who we are. And that was all I had to say with the story. You know, to write anything beyond that, I don't know what the story would be. So, you know, there's not ever, this was a 20-minute preamble to say, no, there will never be a sequel to The Complex, Take the Long Way Home. But then there are books that have become series that I didn't intend for them to be series. The Rising, for example, supposed to be a standalone novel. I never in a million years thought there would be a sequel to that. But then there was, and then there was a third book, and then there was a fourth book, the prequel. And as we talked about earlier in the stream, now there will be a fifth book. So yeah, you know, I don't really think about it when I'm doing it. I let the muse dictate to me what it's going to be. Joanne asks, Stranger Things question. So you're playing your BC Rich Warlock on the roof of the upside down version of your home to distract demon bats from your friends. Is the song you choose Master of Puppets like Eddie Munson did, or is there another heavy metal song that you think would do an even better job? That is a beautiful, beautiful question, Joanne. I loved that scene in Stranger Things season 4, and we're not going to talk about it at length because we're not going to spoil it for everybody. If you read my newsletter, I've already talked about it there. I thought that was one of the greatest moments in modern TV history. Definitely one of the best TV moments of the last decade. And Eddie, that character, my God, I felt seen. I was that kid. I was that metalhead who played D&D and read horror novels, and everybody thought was some kind of fucking devil worshiper. So yeah, I loved Eddie. But no, Master of Puppets is not what I would choose. And I wouldn't have my BC Rich Warlock. I'd have the horror show with Brian Keane, Flying V. And hang on, let me find the camera, make sure that's showing up. Yeah. And no, I would not play Master of Puppets. I would probably go with The Real Thing by Faith No More. That would be my number one pick. However, I think The Real Thing is even longer than Master of Puppets. So if my friends didn't have that much time and I needed a shorter song, probably Crush by Anthrax. If you're not familiar with that one, look that one up. It's one of Anthrax's later songs, or maybe Anthrax's cover of Journey's Keep On Running, because that just fucking shreds too. Or maybe Shred by Overkill. I don't know. There's a lot of them. Joanne. But yeah, if I had the time, The Real Thing by Faith No More would be my pick. All right, I'm going to refresh the comments on Patreon, make sure we got them all. And then we will jump to the comments on the live stream. So if you have questions, type them in. And if not, we'll say goodnight. All right, yeah, that looks like all the questions from the patron. So do me a favor, somebody type something in the comments. I just want to see if it shows up. Okay, that's what's happening, guys. YouTube and Patreon are not getting along. I'm not seeing your comments as you type them. So we're going to try a little something different here. Give me 1 second. A little something different here. Okay, there we go. I can see your comments. I'm actually watching the stream now and trying not to let the delay mess with me. So let's go down through. All right. Everybody got in. See, I didn't see any of this before now. All right. Let's get to these questions. Mr. McCobb asks, In an effort to read everything you've written, aside from novels, I'm trying to acquire all of The Last Zombie. How many volumes are there? I haven't been able to figure that out. That's easy. There are 5. And they are in order: The Last Zombie, Dead New World. You may also find it listed just as The Last Zombie. That's a trade paperback. It collects the first 5 issues. After that comes The Last Zombie Inferno. Again, collects the next 5 issues of the series. After that, it is The Last Zombie Neverland. Collects the next 5 issues of the series, etc. After that is The Last Zombie Before the After, another 5 issues collected. And then The Last Zombie The End, which is the final volume, the 5th and final volume. If you can't find those, or if you want to save money, look for The Last Zombie Omnibus. It looks like this. Sometimes it's listed as the Zombie Bus, but that's an omnibus. It collects the entire series, big, thick foam book. And I pointed out to people, The Last Zombie does, in fact, take place within my mythos. Frankie does show up in it, spoiler alert. And the Labyrinth series will return to that world. So if you haven't read The Last Zombie, you do have time. But it is something you may want to familiarize yourself with eventually. Okay, Rose asks, can you elaborate on how that physical experience with those objects affected you? Physical experience with those objects. That's got to be from something earlier in the stream, right? Oh, you're talking about the Lovecraft stuff. Charles Rutledge has a picture, and I will put it up on Twitter afterward. He snapped a photograph of me the moment the curator laid the At the Mountains of Madness manuscript down in front of me. And my expression is one of pure joy. It's like I just saw a kitty cat, or I just saw my child being born for the first time. It's an amazing experience. And even like I said, this Arthur Machen book, or we were talking about Carlton's first chapbook earlier. It's to somebody who's never read this, or isn't a fan of Carlton, or doesn't know his history, this just looks like a cheap little chapbook. To me, this is a memento of a dear friend of mine who had a dream and who has gone on to achieve that dream. And it all started with this thin little pamphlet. It's cool to have something like that in your hand. All right, so let's keep going down here. Is there still a plan for Dead Air? Yes, there is. Dead Air was a zombie novel. It's not set in the world of The Rising. It's not set in the world of Dead Sea. It's not even set in a zombie apocalypse. The premise was that Bloom, the character from the Labyrinth series, is on an airplane, and Siquasim invade that version of Earth, and they manifest inside this plane. And he manages to seal them off between the coach compartment and the first class compartment where he is, and contain them within the plane so they can't impact the rest of the Earth. But now he's stuck in midair with this plane full of zombies, and the few survivors up in first class, and they can't land the plane because then the Siquasim will get loose on Earth. So he's kind of fucked as to what to do. There's still a plan for it. I've had that sold to 2 different publishers, and both of those publishers went out of business before I got a chance to finish the book. So I've kind of backburnered it. It is something I intend to finish, but maybe I'll do it for Patreon as a serial, just so I can kind of, make myself finish it and write it. So let's see here. The next question is, so once you've completed the Labyrinth series, what's next? New Worlds? Man, I hope so. I would like to think that I'll be doing this in my 70s or 80s. Of course, we don't know. But yeah, I do have a concrete vision after the Labyrinth series is finished, and that is, it draws my mythos to a close. What began with No Rest for the Wicked and The Rising ends with that final book, and then I'm free of continuity and everything being interconnected, and I can just write a fucking story, and it doesn't have to fit in with anything else. But yeah, I hope to never stop writing. There will be new works and new worlds. Okay, Tom asks, if you found yourself stuck as a character in a novel, would you rather the author be Richard Lehman or Jack Ketchum? My God. If I'm a character and I'm the protagonist, Ketchum. His protagonists have better odds of surviving, believe it or not, than Lehman's do. If I'm the main character and I'm a female, again, Ketchum. And I say that having read The Girl Next Door, I'm still going to say Ketchum. I love Dick Lehman, but yeah, I would much rather be a character in a Ketchum novel. So, all right, guys, that looks like that's about it for the questions. I appreciate it. I know we still had some technical glitches tonight, but it still went a lot smoother than the first one did. And of course, we will continue to iron it out. Now I know not to set this to private, just to set it to unlisted. So that'll be a lot easier next week. So thank you very much. I hope we can keep doing these, and y'all have a pleasant evening. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.